Fantasy Football Almost Daily with your hosts, Paul Charchian, Christian Peterson, Matt Harrison, and Brian Johnson.
Here at Fantasy Football Almost Daily. It's Tuesday. That means it's free agent recommendation day. Joining me to help make heads or tails of all your decisions, Brian Johnson, Matt Harrison. Hello, guys.
I did choose tails. That's why I'm on this podcast.
You chose tails.
Yep.
Does that make? We're going to assume that meant you were the winner.
Yeah.
By the way.
Exactly.
For sure. There's a lot to get to. Brian Johnson did most of the grunt work on the recommendations this week. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Let's start at the quarterback position because no small amount of intrigue. We've got no bye weeks, but we do have Andrew Luck as a kind of out of the blue scratch, probable scratch for Thursday.
Yep.
Short week, unfortunately. Had this been a Sunday game, maybe he bounces back through the concussion protocol fast enough, but I can't remember another situation where a guy entered the concussion protocol on a Sunday, then played on a Thursday.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's not likely.
They're usually cleared on Friday or Saturday.
Right.
Usually never Thursday, so it's not looking good for Luck. And
No.
I don't know if you can trust Scott Tolzien.
No is the answer.
Yeah.
I do know, and the answer is no.
Yes.
It punishes. I'm working through wide receiver rankings right now. It punishes T.Y. Hilton and Dante Moncrief big time. But a couple of guys you could pick up. Ryan Tannehill, owned in only 24% of Yahoo leagues. He gets San Francisco. They're going to do the cross-country travel. We think of San Francisco as a really, really bad run defense, which is true, but they're also a really bad pass defense as well.
Yep.
I believe they've allowed the second most passing touchdowns in the NFL. So a great opportunity for Tannehill. And if not Tannehill, you like Carson Wentz this week, and so do I, against the Packers.
You like anyone against the Packers at this point, right? I mean,
would.
they have like Pop Warner kids playing second in their secondary right now. They're down to the
Demetrius
neediest of
Randall's
gritty.
been a disaster in year 2. He's been hurt. His play has been terrible. Micah Hyde is now getting some reps at slot corner instead of safety, which is what he ought to be playing. That's been bad.
I saw the 10-second video of the Packers player running onto the field
Yeah.
late for the play, and then he just gets like the most gentle push and face plants. and that's their defense.
It was
this
some
season.
linebacker.
Yeah.
Who was it? Do we know who that was yet?
Some rookie
Poor
linebacker.
guy.
I think they put a uniform on like the equipment manager or something in that one.
it's-
But it helps that he goes from at Seattle to this matchup at home. That's like, complete
For Carson Wentz.
For Carson Wentz,
and
yes.
he ended up throwing 2 touchdowns last week, which was his first 2-touchdown game in like a month. One of them was in garbage time.
Yeah.
But still, you get the feeling that Wentz has played well enough where he could have his first ever 3-touchdown game, and it could come here. This is a Packers defense that's allowed at least 3 passing touchdowns in 3 of the last 4 games. So I like Carson Wentz as well. Oddly enough, in my deep in our QB Flex League in the Charch League, these are my 2 starting quarterbacks this week.
Good matchups.
They're good matchups this week. All right, let's go to the running back position. Thomas Rawls owned pretty much everywhere by now, but if for some reason people are asleep at the wheel, obviously you want in on Thomas Rawls. I don't think we have to even expand on that.
Nope.
Let's go one step deeper to Alex Collins, which is pretty fascinating because now, Matt, the Seahawks have, in the course of 1 week, lost 2 key running backs. One they gave up on, and they cut Michael. And then they lose C.J. Prosise to the shoulder injury, and he's going to be done probably until the playoffs.
Well, and how close are we to losing Thomas Rawls again?
Exactly.
A broken leg, I believe he had earlier in the season. So you got to kind of treat him with kid gloves, too. So I imagine that they're going to work Alex Collins in quite a bit
I think they will.
the next time, and it'll probably be pretty close to a 50-50 split.
I don't know if it goes that much.
Maybe not that far.
It's usually
but
a workforce team, and if Rawls is healthy enough, I think they want to work him. But his health is super fragile, right?
His health is fragile, and they're looking like a team that's kind of got an easy road to the playoffs right now. So they might want to try to save him for the playoff run.
They've got Tampa Bay, which is usually when Gerald McCoy's there, usually a pretty good, maybe not great run defense. Then they've got Carolina, which is a great run defense. They have a slumping Green Bay run defense.
Pending Luke Kuechly's status, though.
Well,
I know
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Next week, but still, but that was a scary looking concussion. Hopefully he
sure.
comes back this year.
Yeah, L.A., Arizona after that. All right, let's go to Mike Gillisley.
And LA and Arizona are not good matchups.
Not good matchups.
So
Those are really good run
if you're looking at Collins for long-term help, it's probably not a lot that you want to put in on your fab budget this week.
Yeah, on a high level, when you see the Rams defense now, it doesn't look scary on paper, but that unit is healthy.
It's really, really good. Yeah,
So,
when they're healthy, they're really, really
they've
good.
been healthy for like 2 weeks, and
Yes.
it's now, though. The time is now that they're healthy, so they're
That
scary.
is correct. I've spent some. They've got New Orleans this week in New Orleans, and so I've been trying to, debug that situation, and it's really tricky because when that secondary, especially when they had Trumaine Johnson and they got LaMarcus Joyner healthy, those guys are really good cornerbacks, and they will frustrate a lot of people. Quick note: Michael Thomas is your winner out of that group.
Yeah.
He should be the one who gets E.J. Gaines out of that group, and he's the cornerback you want. Anyway, Mike Gillisley got dropped by a lot of people after LaShawn McCoy came back healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Now McCoy may end up missing this game, or at a minimum, he's probably playing with a cast on his finger and sits in a timeshare because he's probably not going to catch passes on the bad thumb and whatever was on the thumb. And if, God forbid, he fumbles or something early with some wrap on his thumb, that could be it for him too. So there's a lot of ways where Mike Gillisley ends up being meaningful this week.
Mike Gillisley's a good player. They have a great schedule down the run too. So I'm excited about picking up most of the Bills' offense that's available right now, like Gillisley and Sammy Watkins as well. Should be coming back in the next week or so.
Jacksonville, Oakland, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Miami.
It's a great run right there.
It's a pretty good run.
Yeah.
Although Oakland's secondary's gotten to be pretty good. Pittsburgh is middle of the road defense, but you get Cleveland and Miami at the end. That's helpful. Charles Sims is going to be activated perhaps as early as week 13. What I like about Sims and why I think he will be activated when you don't always know is they don't have a lot of depth there. Maybe Jaquez Rodgers comes back, but they've had so many injuries at the running back position. Still don't know if they can how much you trust Doug Martin. I think he'll be the guy they bring back.
The thing I'm scared about Charles Sims on is we saw Charles Sims as the lead back in that offense for a couple weeks this season. He did next to nothing.
Well,
with
he's not meant to be a lead back. He should be change of pace, pass catching guy, which had value last year, right? He ended in PPR leagues. He was like a top 15 back, running second behind Doug Martin all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was drafted in the 10th round at the latest in most leagues this year. So, yeah, he was practically universally owned. So, if he comes back, he's a much better player than Jaquez Rodgers. So, worth stashing.
They do get
in
San
PPR.
Diego and New Orleans twice in the last 5 weeks as well. So, that's kind of nice as well.
In deep, deep leagues, you mentioned Dwayne Washington, Wendell Smallwood, and Rex Burkhead. Rex Burkhead is your, by the way, if you don't know who he is, and I don't blame you, he's your Cincinnati Bengals replacement for Giovanni Bernard, but he'll gets the majority of the work.
Well, Smallwood I kept in the article because it looked like he would be a viable ad because Ryan Matthews and Darren Sproles both got hurt against the Seahawks. But then reports come out yesterday that they both look fine this week, or they should be fine. So back off Smallwood.
If Darren Sproles is playing on a broken rib, though, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I don't know how much, I don't know how, the rib injuries hurt like crazy. A lot of it's just pain management, but still,
they say it's a safe place, so I guess it's not threatening to puncture his heart or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, he's going to play through it supposedly.
Devontae Parker's surging of late. Last 2 weeks, he's put up a 100-yard game and an 80-yard game with a touchdown. Not too shabby. He's getting more usage than Kenny Stills now, which finally. Thank you.
Yeah.
And starting to show somewhat made him a first-round talent just 2 seasons ago. So I'm in on Devontae Parker. The schedule this week we know is super favorable because you have San Francisco, then you have a bad Baltimore secondary, Arizona, then you got a bad Jets secondary, and then you got a middle-of-the-road Buffalo secondary. So I do like the schedule the rest of the way for the Dolphins.
I don't know if Baltimore's a bad secondary.
No, it's a bad secondary. They're an elite run defense and a bad
They don't
secondary.
give up the home run ball, though, and that's kind of what Devontae Parker is. You want to get the deep threat out of him. You want to get the long touchdowns, and to me, it just doesn't
if Jimmy Smith is hurt, even if he's not, I mean, Des Bryant had 2 touchdowns last week. He's not.
He's Des Bryant. He's not Devontae Parker.
That's true, but Devontae Parker.
The way you attack Baltimore is through the air, period. This is a great run defense. They just bottled up Ezekiel Elliott. This is the way you beat them through the air, and sheer volume alone, I think, makes Parker playable next week. Deshaun Jackson came back after missing some time. It's now, I think the biggest problem is they just got a lot of people. They got a lot of mouths to feed in Washington.
Yeah, Jamison Crowder is good.
Crowder's great. And, Jordan, and by the way, he's hurting Jordan Reed a lot. But they still have Jordan Reed. They got Vernon Davis. They have Pierre Garçon. And, and they can, by the way, throw to their backs as well. So, I mean, The problem for Deshaun Jackson to me is just it's all about volume. And is he going to get 4 targets in a game? And what can he do with those?
He's
4
like
targets?
a home run play at best, don't you think? If you're playing
Yes,
Deshaun Jackson, it's
for
like
sure.
because you're behind from a bad Thursday night matchup or something like that.
I believe he has a pretty good history against the Cowboys. I have to check on that. So he's probably a pretty strong play this week in what should be a pretty high-scoring game.
Corey Coleman targeted 12 times last week. Anytime Josh McCown is on the field, it's better for Corey Coleman. It looks like McCown is your rest of the year starter, and although any play could be his last, as we've seen many times with him.
Waiting for Kevin Hogan again.
Well, they're saying
Waiting for Kevin
RG3
Hogan.
might come back too, right?
RG3 might
jeez.
be your starting quarterback before long. Tough matchup this week with the Giants, and then he gets the bye. So I don't know that I'm buying on Corey Coleman right now. 'Cause I don't think I'm going to start him for 2 straight weeks. After that, you get Cincinnati, which is a favorable matchup. So maybe you hold him for that. Talk about Marquise Leaks. You've been following him really closely for the last month.
Yeah, he's starting to turn it on. I mean, people forget that he was drafted before Allen Robinson a couple years ago by the Jaguars. So he has pedigree, and Robinson still draws the bulk of attention from the opposing secondary. So Lee's been getting healthy 7-8 targets the last 4 or 5 games. Had a really nice touchdown catch over Darius Slay, which not a lot of people are able to do. So he looks legit, and we all know that the Jaguars are always behind, always throwing. So Lee's a decent ad. It's a tough schedule, though, for the Jaguars moving forward.
difficult.
Buffalo, Denver, Minnesota, Houston. Awful schedule.
But again, Allen Robinson will be the primary focus, so
Yeah.
Lee will have a little more room to work. So it's not an amazing ad, but he's a viable wide receiver 3 in deeper leagues.
We haven't yet talked about AJ Green's injury. Let's hit that now because there are going to be people that are going to go from AJ Green to either Brandon LaFell or Tyler Boyd. LaFell's been dramatically more productive, but I wonder now if they don't kick Boyd out of the slot, kick him out wide, and have him running AJ Green's routes.
Yeah, they didn't draft him to be a slot receiver his whole
they
career.
didn't.
So yeah, he's got good size. He's like 6'2". He and LaFell, Boyd and LaFell are like the same size, so they're both equal red zone threats. I don't know who I'd rather have. It's a tough call. I think you just put a bid on both, and hope you get one, and then
Boyd have more, LaFell's got the familiarity. I think LaFell's just gonna keep running his old routes. I think that Boyd's is gonna kick outside and have to go learn new routes. And for a rookie receiver, that might be trickier for him. And so I think at least initially the advantage goes to LaFell.
I'm with you.
Boyd's got way more innate talent, and I just don't know that we're gonna see all that materialize here. Schedule is Baltimore, which I think is more favorable than you do. Philadelphia. Then Cleveland, which is always a positive. Pittsburgh, Houston, it's a mixed bag. Let's go to the tight end position. Will Tye, your guy. You correctly called this last week that he was going to be a nice play. He got a touchdown last week, and surprisingly, an inactive status for Larry Donnell.
yeah, well, Donnell had been passed by Jarrell Adams on the depth chart even. So yeah, Ty has been getting the lion's share of the tight end work. And it's a good spot because the Giants' tight ends are utilized. So Ty's been getting plenty of targets, and his schedule coming up is pretty meaty.
He's got the Browns this week,
Yeah,
so
that's a
Will
great play
Ty's
this
absolutely pick up and start.
I know Detroit's on the docket.
Detroit is up there as well.
And
Pittsburgh
Dallas.
as well.
And Dallas is a really good matchup for opposing tight ends, too. So Will Ty is definitely a viable ad.
All right. You can get the full list, including several guys we just didn't do a deep dive on here.
There's a lot this week.
There were a lot of this.
No one really stands out. There's a lot of options out there.
A lot of options. I think the quarterbacks stand out. Tannehill and Wentz with great matchups this week.
You know, one guy that I saw dropped in a few leagues who was on bye last week that I think people should pick up is Antonio Gates. If he's available, go after him hard because his schedule for tight ends is amazing at the end of the season. Even if you can trade for Gates right now, if you still have a trade deadline available, he gets Tampa, Carolina, Oakland, Cleveland for the last 4 games.
And they want to get him that record, too.
They want to get him
running
that
out of
record,
time.
too. They're throwing him the ball in the end zone a lot, and he's got a cake schedule.
I'd like to know what his ownership percentage is. I haven't seen him dropped in any of my leagues, but maybe.
I saw him dropped in a couple on ESPN. I think he dropped down to like 70%, something like that. So he might be available in your league. Go take a look.
It's a short holiday week. I don't know. Tomorrow, I think you're going to do a DFS podcast for the Thursday games only. Is that right?
Yeah, we'll have one for the Thanksgiving games. It'll be Brian and I.
Okay.
It'll be fun.
Minneapolis Ace might come.
Oh yeah.
We can talk a little bit about Sunday. We won't do every game, but maybe we can talk about some plays that stand out early on.
Maybe we split it up and do 2. Never know.
Sterling Shepard. Mark my words. And I don't have to sell him to you for this week, but
Sell me, please.
yeah.
Shepard, Ty, plus Eli.
There you go. There's your stack. That's your stack right there.
It even
I'm
rhymes
with
a
you.
little bit.
It does. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow.